welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I've got a microcarpa over a rock. It's been a little while since I've done anything with it. This was the subject of, I think it was my second video. You know, in like 2 weeks, this is going to look like a chia pet, and I'm going to come back and put some wire on it. And this one didn't quite recover as quickly as I thought it would, but it's definitely right along that route now. It's, since it didn't recover as quick, I decided to just kind of hold off on putting wire until it was a little more time. It's definitely time now. I'm going to wind up pruning every tip and defoliating the whole thing. I'm going to start off with just some defoliation just so I can kind of get in here and see a little bit better. Probably as I go, I'm going to cut a bunch of stuff off. I'm going to try to avoid doing time lapse or editing out all that much since it's not that big of a tree, but sometimes this I always get started thinking, well, this won't take me too long, and it always takes me a lot longer than I think. So I'm going to try to just kind of work along here without talking too much. But as usual, I mean, like this thing, because ficus trees are not deciduous, some people get kind of freaked out when they drop leaves. This thing drops leaves for me all the time. It used to kind of, freak me out. I mean, I see a lot of people that go on these forums, ficus forums, bonsai forums, whatever. Oh my gosh, my ficus has yellowing leaves. As long as it's got, here's another yellow one here. But as long as it's got enough healthy ones, you don't really have all that much to worry about. I get a little more worried when the new leaves look that way, but that happens sometimes too. I mean, it's one of the things that happens. I got a couple trees. School starts in a week and teachers go back Monday, so my videos are going to slow down quite a bit. Now, if you saw there, I just broke that branch off because I could see that it had no leaves on it. It was dead. All I did was really just barely touch it and it broke right off. But I had a couple trees I'm going to work before school starts. One of them, probably the one I'll either do later today or maybe tomorrow morning. I mean, it looks 10 times healthier than this tree does, and it's got a ton of burnt leaves on it. But what I'm hoping there is that, and even though it is July and August and we're kind of in the middle of our heat, but I'm hoping that we finally get some rainy season kick in. It seems to kick in a little bit stronger in August than it does in June and July, at least these days anyway. When I first moved here, it rained all through June and July, but now it barely rains at all. But my hope is that as I kind of work them like this, with taking all the leaves off and then getting some wire on there and everything, that all the young leaves come out, they'll be young, they'll be used to the sun, and they won't get so burned up. And, even though it's still hot, we still get less and less sun every day because we're heading towards fall. So maybe a little less exposure to the sun, kind of burn them up a little bit less than the ones that are on there now. Probably about 2/3 done now. Start to see the shape of a little more. I have been popping off a couple of these branches that stick straight up and down. Here's I left that branch here just for a minute. That's where that sacrifice branch was. There was, when I told you the history of this, I did at one point kind of see that this was going to be so skinny. It was, such a big rock and such a skinny branch that I had a huge sacrifice. This thing was shooting up here about 3 or 4 feet. I think it was actually starting to get to where it was so big, it was taking all the energy from the rest of the tree, so I decided to take it off. I am going to pull that off. There's actually even a little bit more green right there that I'm just going to kind of pull off. I'm going to wind up working that with a knife here before I put it back out in the sun. To see that branch, as much as, it is so funny that you get all the tropical trees that have that facing straight up stuff, but then when we see a branch growing straight down, we take it off because it's kind of breaking the rules. It is, but it's funny, sometimes that's what we want. We don't want them growing straight up, and then we get one that grows down, we take it off. This one, this is always kind of, even when I had that sacrifice branch on there, this one's a little bit better shape than this one is, but those, well, actually that one is coming up off the top of the branch, so I'm going to have to get rid of that one. You try to think about what I'm gonna wire things to as well. And actually, I think for some taper purposes, I'll take that guy off. And then I got this long one, which I kind of always just had kind of growing out of there. Again, hoping that it would help thicken the branch. Trunk, it did. But it's got all the branches coming off this way, all off the same side. This one's really close to the trunk. I think I'm going to take that one off. But even before I do that, I think I am. This rock is really clean. I mean, if you saw my last root over rock video, I spent a lot of time with a toothbrush cleaning like the algae all off the rock. This one's pretty clean because I was kind of pulling this guy up a little bit quicker, but there's a lot of gunk between the stump and the rock where it's not quite the stump right on the rock, but some of the old root ball in there. I'm going to try to pick some of that out before I wire it up, even though it's back here and there's not going to be really any branches in the way. I'm going to kind of just do it. All right, so you can see there that pulled out quite a bit of dirt that was in there. Probably got about a good size, like 7-Eleven cup full of coffee out of there or whatever of like potting soil type dirt. That should, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I was leaving it in there in the hope that the stump would kind of thicken up and kind of adhere to the trunk or to the rock. But obviously it wasn't going to fill in that huge gap right there. I mean, you can see that's a pretty good sized gap there. It wasn't going to fill all that in, but I kind of envision one day the final product being a little bit more like that. Although, this rock is, kind of heavy enough to where whenever I try to get it in some other kind of a pot, you can see this didn't used to actually, this pot actually kept its shape when I put it in there, but I don't know if you can kind of see how oblong it's getting just because of sitting in there for so long. So we'll see what happens, but for right now, it should actually allow us for some more airflow in there. Maybe start working on getting some of that algae off that's in there if it ever starts raining here again or whatever. But since I did that before putting wire on, I'm going to go ahead and work a couple of these scars just a little bit too. This scar I'm really happy with. I'd almost just leave completely alone, but I did pull that. There was a little bit of green growing there and a little bit there. I could have left that there to help roll it over, but then I'd have another branch to cut to possibly leave another scar. So I just want to kind of rough up the edges just a little bit. And sometimes I'd use my knife for this, but this was just kind of in a good spot for the knob cutters. I can press down on it. You guys can see that or not, but that area around the wound now kind of continue rolling over. I wouldn't even be surprised if we got another branch. If it did, it's going to help roll it over even more. That one should almost be unnoticeable here soon. And I got this guy here to worry about. It's not rotten or anything. It's just not really rolling over all that well. I was kind of hoping when I took that sacrifice off that I'd get enough growth up there to kind of spur some, but it is growing away from that wound. Maybe I'm going to rough that up a little bit now. Actually, I'm going to take this Dremel. I don't know. There's no way I can really get the... And I do just have the drill bit on there because the carving tools I got are kind of crap. I got to figure out something better. But I'm probably edit out the noisy part because the sound of this thing drives me crazy, but I'm going to kind of just take out some of that middle piece there and then work it with the knob cutter and maybe, or the knife, just kind of depending on what it looks like once I kind of work out some of that dead wood in there. I'd love to see it just get any kind of a branch anywhere around the edge, or close to it, under it, on the side, or whatever. That would really help heal it up too. And do that just to kind of take out some of the bulk of it so that it can roll over onto something, because it can't roll over onto nothing. And then actually. And we'll just see what happens with that over time, but you reach some live woods around the edge there. And again, now that that's indented just a little bit, that should roll over some. Any kind of a branch I could get at any point there would help tremendously. Not only that, I could use a branch right in that spot anyway. It would hide the scar and just, it's kind of a bare part of the tree that needs a branch anyhow. All right, so I don't want to gather, I don't really want to pinch that aerial root there in and all that much. That, even though that looks like that was at one point an aerial root that had dropped down and then it just kind of took care of that, but I don't want to pinch that. So I will start there. All right, and there we go, every branch wired. I got these two on the apex. I did leave these two, or three actually, I guess, are kind of small. And being up here now with all the cutting tips cut or whatever, this tree is just going to get a ton of energy pushing out of the top. I'll probably have to take these off first and work my way down eventually, but let's start bending a little bit. I was thinking about setting it up and then worrying about bending it from there, but actually the more I look at it, I might have to, eventually when I do, when I have it a little more of a finished state, I'm thinking that maybe I might have it sitting up a little higher, or the rock out a little higher, but probably not much that way. So I think I'll just kind of leave it as is and just think of it as it is, but try to get as much movement as I can. If anything happens and I overbend anything or anything, it's still young enough. I can regrow if I need to. Should be enough there. I have had some wire just on these lower branches because at one point they were just like way out here like this. I was kind of letting them grow a little more with the sacrifice branch too. So you can see they already had like a little bit of movement in there. But like not this one, because you can see that one, just a little straight piece sticking up on the side there. That's actually a new sprout since that last time I worked it. That one I'll just take down and just try to get a little side to side in there. Won't really worry about poking it up. That thing will grow. Find the sun. These two are new too. I already had the little bit of movement in that. I just kind of moved it a little more than it already was. And then these two were just new sprouts. So try to get them down some. And a little side to side in there too. This one, I even saw that sprouting at first, and I think I might even talked about that in an earlier video about how this one is actually thicker than the trunk here. So I did kind of I cut the ends of these off just a little bit so that that wouldn't continue thickening, but I do, it is one of those things of, it is a little bit of a reverse taper problem, but of course this whole trunk system here is a little bit of a reverse taper problem, but time it gets a canopy on it and everything, you really won't be able to see that anyway. So this one, I don't think I'd be able to kind of get it in front here to fill up anything up here. So I think I'll go kind of back with it. And again, just try to get some movement. I mean, it is growing right on top of that other branch there. And without getting, I mean, it's flexible, but it's not a rubber band or anything either. So really isn't a whole lot I can do other than just kind of move it a little bit. Get a little snake in there. And then pull it down, kind of leave it parallel with that branch. Maybe a little more down and a little up at the end there, just so that they're not exactly parallel with each other. And then up here, I did take a heavier piece of wire and kind of tied this in with the apex there a little bit, just so that whatever kind of movement I can get in both of these. So you can see there's 2 wires there. Kind of get that to stay a little bit better. And then that's an older one. This is another brand new one. I already feel a couple of these that I've moved kind of snap just a little bit as I go, just because they are brittle, but as long as the wire holds them in place, it should hold them in place and let them heal like that. This one, and it's got, you know, decent taper for a twig because it has been pruned many times, but and then this guy here, I'll just kind of pull that down. And yeah, I did want to kind of break that one straight line there up a little bit. I was able to do that. So I think that'll do for now. Tree is still kind of in its younger stages, obviously, but I mean, you know, it's a 3-year-old cutting. It isn't so old. But I do think it won't be too long. It'll be taking on the appearance of an older tree. I think it looks pretty good. And I'll put the old tree I'll put the old tree link, the old video link in there. It is one of my older videos, so sorry for the poor quality and all that. But anyway, thanks for watching.